who are the ones who are to come? All those who are thirsting. Come! That's who the call is going to. See, those who are thirsting are the ones who are saying, I'm tired of this life. This life doesn't satisfy me. I want what He can give to me. And I'm going to line myself up with that in order for Him to be able to give that to me. So now we have 7 churches. And the 7 churches are the 7 spirits. So I'm going to teach you how you are attacked to keep you from being the bride, okay, of the second Adam, Hava, the mother of all living. The first spirit, this is in Isaiah chapter 11, verse 2. The first spirit, and these go with the churches. The first spirit is Chokmah. We call it wisdom. It's called first light. The second spirit is Binah. It's called understanding, the ability to be able to separate things out. The third spirit is the spirit of counsel. Now, this is not you giving counsel. This is you receiving counsel. Okay? This is the governing spirit of Adonai. We'll call this the Holy Spirit, the source. Okay? The ruling aspect of it. This one here is Gevurah, power. This one right here is Da'at. It's known as deep, intimate knowledge, sacrificial knowledge. And this one is the fear of the Lord. Now, the 7 spirits, okay, of God, that's what these are. Wisdom, understanding, counsel, the Ruach Adonai, power, knowledge, fear of the Lord. These 7 spirits are what make up the 7 lampstands. The 7 lampstands are the 7 churches. So we have Ephesus, then we have Smyrna, then we have Pergamos, then we have Thyatira, then we have Sardis, thank you. Then we had Philadelphia, and then we have Laodicea. The 7 spirits go with the 7 churches. And the problems with each one of these churches quench each one of these spirits. The problem of each one of the churches will quench each one of these spirits. And what we have to learn how to do is to keep the fire lit. And we need to understand the scheme of the enemy and how he will try to put out our lamp. Do you see? And how he's trying to destroy the church, the kahal, the assembly of the called out ones. And how he's trying to keep you from being overcomers. Because it will only be those who overcome who will be granted the right to be the bride. Only those who are conformed to His image will be the bride. The bride is kind of like the best. That's kind of like there's nothing better. That's kind of like saying, you know what? I've been trying things my own way for quite some time, and just between you, me, and the fence post, it's not working too well. It's just not working too well. This fleshly kind of stuff, it just isn't paying off. And you know what? I'm living my life in confusion, and I'm living my life kind of frustrated. Now, I know you love God, and I know you're doing the best you can. And every decision you're making is right. But there's going to come a time where you're going to have to start making some ones that take less time. You know, this takes a long time. Okay? So, this is going to be important for us tonight. So now, let's pick up with the church at Ephesus. Let's find out the characteristic of God. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put down His characteristics. So, somebody read for us here in the church of Ephesus, okay? And so that begins in Revelation chapter 2, verse 1, and that's going to go all the way through verse 7. But we don't need to read all the way through verse 7. All we want to do is learn how to take notes in comparison. So we're going to lay out the churches here: Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamos, Thyatira, Sardis, Philadelphia, Laodicea. And we're going to put the characteristics of God. that Adam was originally created in his image and in likeness, and what God is desiring to bring us back to. Okay? Now this is what's a crack up to me. What's a crack up to me is the mindset that we as believers have, say there's no way that we could ever be conformed in the image of God, because we're just sinners. And I'm going, I thought the Bible told us we could do all things through Christ who strengthens us. Well, that's true, except for be conformed to His image. How long are we going to believe the lie? Well, about 10 more years, and then we'll be tired of it. You know what I'd say? I'd say it's probably time to get over that one. As they say out in the hill country, how's that working for you? You know, not very good. Somebody read for us this opening verse.
Their perseverance and endurance.
Ephesians chapter 2. What are the characteristics that are revealed concerning Christ?
I'm sorry.
Okay, somebody read the verse.
Which one?
You said
Okay.
Revelation, did you mean?
Yeah, Revelation chapter 2, but the church at Ephesus.
I know what you have been doing, how hard you worked, how you have persevered, and how you can't stand wicked people. So you tested those who call themselves emissaries but aren't, and you found them to be liars.
Okay, you started with verse 2, and I need you to start on verse 1.
Okay. To the angel of the Messianic community in Ephesus write, here is the message from the one who holds the 7 stars in his right hand and walks among the 7 golden menorahs.
Okay, so what does he do?
7 stars and 1.
He holds the 7 stars, and what are the 7 stars?
7 angels.
They're the angels, he's the angels, and he also holds what?
7
Stands,
lampstands. So the Spirit of God.
Okay, in his hand. That's the church at Ephesus, right? Okay, that's his characteristics that's given to him. Is he revealing to us who he is? Yes, he is. So if he's revealing that, then there was something special in here that we need to know about this. Okay? Then we have the next church, Smyrna.
Gotcha.
Okay? So if somebody wants to read Smyrna, and this begins here in verse 8, and tell me what the characteristics of Yahweh are here.
To the angel of the congregation in Smyrna write, these are the words of him who is the first and the last, who died and came to life again.
I wonder who that is.
Okay? Excellent. That's Smyrna. Okay, let's go to Pergamos.
To the angel of the church in Pergamum write, the one who has the sharp, two-edged sword.
Okay, good. Thyatira, my favorite church. Anybody can read it.
To the angel of the congregation in Thyatira write, these are the words of the Son of God, whose eyes are like blazing fire and whose feet are like burnished bronze.
Okay, church at Sardis.
To the angel of the church in Sardis write, these are the words of him who holds the 7 spirits of God and the 7 stars.
Okay, Philadelphia. Church without any problems. It's true.
And to the teaching overseer of the congregation in Philadelphia, right? These things says, he that is set apart, he that is true, he that has the key of David, he that opens, and no man shuts, and shuts, and no man opens. I know you're
That's
both
it.
seat, I have set before you an open door, and no man can shut it. You have little strength, I have kept my word, and have not denied my name. See, I will make them a synagogue of Satan, who will say that they are the Jews and are not, that do lie. See, I will make them come and worship before your feet, and know that I have loved you, because you have kept the word of my endurance. I also will show you in the hour of testing, which shall come upon all the whole world, testing and dwell in the whole world.
Excellent. You are imitating Yeshua. Unto him who is able to do exceeding abundantly above all that we ask or think. Very good.
To the angel of the church in Laodicea, the Amen.
There's only 3 of you that got that.
Yeah.
No, I got it, I was just not
You just think it
laughing.
was that funny.
I got it.
Okay. Thank
You
you.
did
Thank you, Scott.
exceedingly
You
above
did
all.
exceedingly abundantly above all that I asked. Okay, you did that. You're imitating Yeshua. Thank you. Okay? Church of Laodicea.
To the angel of the church in Laodicea, the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the beginning of the creation of God.
And he's the what? At the end?
The beginning of the creation of God. Yeah, the true witness.
Okay? I have chicken scratch, but that's what you have your Bibles for. You can look into your scriptures and you can see these. Okay? These are the characteristics of Yeshua. In every church that he writes, that's how he starts out. Now this is important because our entire focus as the lampstand, our entire focus as believers should be him first. And his qualities and characteristics is what governs. Now, we could put, if we wanted to, but we're not going to for the sake of time, we could put the 7 Moedim, and they go like this. Passover, unleavened bread, first fruits, Pentecost, trumpets, atonement, and Sukkot. And you go, how in the world could Sukkot be Laodicea?
That's what I thought.
Very interesting. Then we could do the 7 spirits. We could put the 7 spirits underneath here because the 7 spirits are the 7 churches. Wisdom, understanding, counsel, the governing power of the Ruach, okay, power, sacrificial knowledge, and the fear of the Lord. So these characteristics of Yeshua are going to be govern each one of these. The problem is that each church has an issue. They've got an issue. And that's what we need to understand. And what we need to understand is how these issues affect you. Because right now Yeshua is in the midst, he's in the midst of the lampstand. He's walking through them, examining them, seeing who is prepared to be my bride. Who is prepared to be my bride. So now let's look at these characteristics of the challenges that each one of these churches face. So we go back to the church at Ephesus. The church at Ephesus, what he makes a comment is, he says, I know your works. And what does he know about their works? There's some things that they do.
Perseverance.
Okay, they persevere.
They endure.
They endure.
They do not tolerate, and they have tested.
What do they not tolerate?
Evil men.
They don't tolerate evil.
Evil men.
Okay, evil men, and what else?
They've tested those who claim to be apostles.
Yeah. And so how do you know whether somebody's an apostle or not? Because the word apostle means sent one. But how do you know if he's really an apostle?
By the message they bring.
Because the word apostle means, the Hebrew word means a shoot off of a branch, or a shoot off of a stem. So in other words, the branch will look identical to the shoot. Okay, or to the main,
The shoot will.
the shoot will look like the main trunk. That's how you know whether someone's an apostle or not. So we have people today who call themselves apostles, right?
They're not walking,
But their lives and their message don't match the original. So would they really be apostles? Not if the message that they proclaim doesn't match the original trunk.
They may be apostles, but not of our God.
They might be apostles, but not of the true and living God. So He knows these guys' works. He knows their labor. He knows their patience. They can't bear them which are evil. They've tried those which say they're apostles and are not, and they found them to be liars. They have borne, they have patience for my name's sake. They've labored, and they have not fainted. These are wonderful commendations that he gives. Is this church rocking pretty strong?
You think so? Yeah.
Yeah. But now we got a major league issue. 1 Corinthians 13, 1 through 3. They're doing all these wonderful things, but they've left something. They left their first love. So now, the issue is, within this church, and this is what you and I have to face. I'm going to tie this in with the Spirit here in a second. They left
First love.
their first love. This is the hardest thing. And this is where it begins, because first love is actually the first spirit of wisdom. Wisdom, chokmah, means first light. Do you remember your first love? You remember the person you first fell in love with, but you really didn't fall in love, but you thought you were really in love when you really weren't?
It's tough. It was
Okay.
in nursery school, but it was tough.
It was, I know, it was a tough time for
She
you.
used to sleep next to me in the cot and after lunch. TMI.
Oh my goodness.
Too much information!
All right, sorry.
Okay, so the church at Ephesus actually deals with the spirit of wisdom. First light, first love. And the thing is that when we don't keep the fires burning, that love goes.
Mm. That first-
When you're not diligently adding into your faith virtue, and into virtue knowledge. This word for wisdom here is actually the word for knowledge. In Greek, wisdom chokmah. In Hebrew, it's knowledge. If you're not constantly growing and examining and learning more about who he is and his qualities and his characteristics, you know what will happen to your walk with him? You'll lose your first love. You'll go find something else that's more interesting, more intriguing. That's one of the reasons why every chance I get, I'm at every study that's going on here. And I'm not talking about the ones I'm teaching. Anytime somebody else is teaching something, I want to be there and I want to listen. Because I want to learn more and more and more about him so I can become more impassioned with who he is.
That's why I write down scriptures more than I write down a lot of the words, so they can go back and read the scriptures, because the scriptures
Great.
are almost more important than the details.
Great technique. That'll keep you learning all the time, and then it'll make you go back and examine the scriptures, won't it? Okay, so good for you, Tony. They left their first love. What about the church at Smyrna? Now the church at Smyrna, they got some stuff that's going on there too. He knows their works. See, we always say that the works aren't important. Then why in the world does God draw so much attention to each one? I know your works and your tribulation and your poverty, but you are rich. This is what James said. He said, the Lord loves those who are poor in this world, but rich in faith. Okay? But you're rich, and I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not. But actually they are the what? The synagogue of Satan. Okay? So in other words, what they're doing, this is the spirit of understanding. See, the spirit of understanding means to divide. It means to separate. There's a group of people who are claiming to be unified, but they're actually not. They're creating division. They're saying that they're the tribe of Yehuda. They say they're keeping the Torah. They say they're instructing in the Torah, but they're actually not. They're the synagogue of Satan. So what they're doing is they're creating division. This is a challenge, because you guys are faced with this all the time. You'll face people who will come to you and they'll say something about your Hebrew root mindset or your biblical mindset or something. And they will say you don't have to keep that, or you don't have to walk that, or you don't have to do this. And
Or you're
so
losing your
they're
faith.
claiming that to be the truth, but in actuality it's not. Because anything that goes contrary to the Torah, which is the truth, Psalm 119, 142, 151, and 160, okay, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, but those three are fun to just rattle off in Psalm 119. But anything that comes against the truth is a what?
Lie.
That's right. So these guys have a challenge, and they don't like this synagogue of Satan. They don't. This is one thing that they were good at, but there's a problem here. And what's the problem here? He says, well, don't be afraid of those things which you shall suffer. So they're going to go through the ringer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that you may be tried, and you shall have tribulation 10 days. Be faithful to death, and what will you receive?
Crown.
The crown of life, which James chapter 1 verse 12 says, blessed is the man who endures temptation, for when he is approved, he will receive the crown of life which the Lord has promised to them that love him. See, when you love him, then what happens is you will endure. So these guys had a challenge, and the challenge that they faced was this concept of persecution and division. So this division was to discourage them. The division for the sake of leading them astray. But he said, you know what? This division that's being caused and you taking this stand, it's going to lead to persecution. But hang in there. Because if you'll hang in there, then you will receive the crown of life which the Lord has promised to them that love him. Okay? And so that will be a good thing. Now the church at Pergamos. Church at Pergamos, these guys have some works. And what are the works? He says, I know your works where you dwell, even where Satan's seat is, and you hold fast my name. You've denied, and you have not denied my faith. Even in those days wherein Antipas was my faithful martyr, who was slain among you where Satan dwells. But I have a few things against you, because you have there them that hold to the doctrine of who? Okay? They hold to the doctrine of Balaam. Okay, can anybody give me a short summary of the doctrine of Balaam?
Mix and match.
That was, thank you, Candace. I think this is the one that Roger taught on.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to teach on it, and I was talking to Roger on the phone one day. He goes, no, this is the one I'm doing. I know this one inside and out.
It's one where he says to have the men go and marry the women of the tribes that you've just, conquered, or that have other gods, because they will corrupt them. So the mixing and matching, bringing in the ways of the nations, if you will.
And that's what Israel was always doing when they had idols. They would mix God, what God taught them, with the paganism.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Balaam began with, the biggest issue with Balaam was, why did he do the things that he was doing? His motivation was wrong. Okay? It's a big starting point, right? Okay? Then he started working against God, because it was all about this, the greenback. Okay? And so then as a result of that, what he did was he taught the children of Israel how to mix and how to be corrupted. God is truly against this. Now, what's the key to Pergamos? Well, Pergamos is counsel. And here, Pergamos was known for being the seat of Satan, where all counsel was given. And so now we have this counsel that's being given coming from the seat of Satan. You remember? That's what it says here. Remember, he says that you have, here in verse 13, I know your works and where you dwell, even where Satan's seat is, the place where counsel is given. It's the opposite of Moses' seat. Satan's seat.
So
This is where counsel is received. So there was total counsel going out that was about following the enemy. Now, do you think it was about just, like drinking blood and sacrificing your children? No, see, Satan's counsel is almost just like God's counsel. It's just a perfect counterfeit. It's just a little bit off. You've got Moses' seat, you've got Satan's seat. Both are places of counsel. The fact of the matter is that this was where Pergamus was centered, right there in Satan's seat. And so the problem with these guys is they held to the doctrine of Balaam, who taught Balak to cast a stumbling block before the children of Israel, to eat things sacrificed to idols and to commit fornication. So you also have them that hold the doctrine of the Nicolaitans, which things I hate. Now, what in the world is the doctrine of the Nicolaitans?
They were a sect of Gnostics.
Okay, and
That sounds Greek.
that sounds very Greek to me.
They rejected the Old Testament law.
They did. And in doing so, what did they do with that? They lorded it over the people, didn't they? They took a concept. The Torah is not about putting your thumb on somebody. The Torah is about submitting your life to somebody and lifting them up and serving them. But the Gnostic philosophy is about your self-ascension and your self-glorification. And so you notice I put the word here, Nike laity, because this word Nike, if you've ever seen the swoosh on a shirt or on a shoe or on a commercial, the word Nike means to overcome. And literally what the Nicolaitans were doing were they the laity that were holding to that doctrine, and they were using it to overcome the people and rule them. This is what you find in churches today. You find churches today with the rulership, the laity, ruling over the people and telling them what to do.
LDS is really good at that.
They're wonderful at that. Okay, had a great time witnessing at the Mormon temple when I was there. Had more fun than you could shake a stick at.
I've been
Okay.
Galatians is a-
A whole lot of swishing going on.
And it was swashbuckling time. Boy, this guy was, this boy story was too funny. Had this elder squirming in his seat. His son was there, another elder, and I said to him, there at the Mormon temple, they've got the two great stones of the Ten Commandments. And I was looking at the stones, and it said, "You shall not have any graven images." And so, so we went into the visitor center, and there's this big, huge statue of Jesus, just as big as Dallas. People are standing there just Googling the statue and just wanting their picture taken, you know, by Jesus and everything like that.
My
And
buddy.
so there's this one girl that Valerie and I walk up to, and her mom, and she's getting ready to be a freshman at BYU, and I said to her, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "I'm really confused about something. You have some stones out there that say, 'You shall make no graven images.' What's that?" And the girl goes, "That's a graven image." And I said, "Yeah." And the mom goes, "Oh, but that's not what it really means." And I said, "Oh," so then I forgot about the mom and we addressed the girl. Well, we walk outside, and by this time, the word, because we've already talked to 2 or 3 people there in the visitor center. So now word has gotten, so
Security.
now we're being
Security.
pursued. Okay, we're being pursued
The
by
elders are coming out.
by the black shirt, by the white shirts and the black pants, and the nice ties. So now we're being pursued, and we walk out, and then all of a sudden I turn around, and I face this guy. This guy has been following me. And I say to this guy, I say, "Hey, I've got a question for you." I said, I'm not Latter-day Saints, I'm not a Mormon. And so I said, "I really don't understand what's going on around here, but I do have a question." And he goes, "Well, what are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm not really anything." And I said, you've got these 10 commandments out here, and it says you shall make no graven images to me, you know, to the Lord, and then of birds in heaven, and things in heaven, things on the earth, and things under the earth. And I said, "What is it?" I said, "Everywhere I look, this whole place is filled with graven images. Everywhere." I said, "Why do you guys post a lie right there when everything that you're doing?" And so he goes, "So, what's the biblical definition of an image?" I said, "I don't know, I'm asking you." So he pulls out his handy-dandy iPod phone, and he looks up the word image. And he goes, "Well, I can't seem to find the definition." So the son says, "Let me see that, Dad." So he takes it, he goes, he pulls it up, he goes, "Dad, it's right here." And he goes,
Talk to
"Image.
you later, son.
Anything that is cast, formed, sculpted, engraved, made in an image through a mold." And I said, "Wow, they're everywhere." I thought you guys